Hello, everyone. Dan Storm here today, president and owner of Sandler Training by True North Performance Advisors here in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, in the beautiful Lehigh Valley. So we're going to talk today about a phenomenon that we at Sandler like to call the dummy curve theory. So what is the dummy curve theory? The dummy curve theory is what happens in many organizations with many sales professionals as their need, their expertise for features, benefits, specifications, quite frankly, product training overwhelms their curiosity for uncovering the prospect or the client's issues. So let's take a look at a dummy curve theory a little bit further. So at the root of the dummy curve, you have an inverted curve or a bathtub curve, as some may call it. On the vertical axis, let's call this one sales, and we'll call the horizontal axis product knowledge. And what happens, and many of you have experienced this for yourselves, is as new salespeople, whether it's new to your company, new to sales, or maybe even just new to an industry, what they tend to do in this early phase that we'll call the dummy phase, and this is affectionately the dummy phase because we're not here to insult anyone or hurt anyone's feelings, but in this particular phase, what happens is these folks don't know a ton about the industry, maybe the product or the company, so they spend about 70% of their time listening, asking questions, really uncovering the prospect's need, fit, making sure that they have the right data to go back. And in many cases at this dummy phase, what they're doing is they're going back, getting answers, and then following up with the prospect. What happens though is this puts the salesperson in a fantastic position to come through and really uncover the true prospect's needs so that way they can discover a better fit. And in a lot of organizations, what happens, and some folks in technical roles, they move into this rather quickly, where you get folks that are very specification focused or technically minded. And what happens then is they will actually kind of invert the listening versus talking. So with folks that are very confident, proud about their products, maybe have a strong technical background, they will actually move toward listening 30% of the time and talking. Some cases they do this because they want to prove their expertise or knowledge or experience, thinking that's going to help achieve the sale. In some cases, I see this a lot with HVAC companies, in-home repairs or technical manufacturing companies, is these people are so focused based on prior roles or prior experience on why their product, company, or what they're selling is really the best on the market, that they will lead with this because that's kind of the best way they know how to sell. So as we move into this phase where the product knowledge really becomes kind of the leading part of it, and people want to sell features, benefits, specs of either products or programs heavily, we call this the amateur phase because a lot of folks are kind of moving there rather quickly. And then finally, what happens is as people move throughout this curve and they become more confident in their product, they understand the industry, but a big thing happens is they actually turn into professionals. And the challenge that we find in a lot of industries, a lot of situations, is the gap to get from this amateur to professional is rather large. So a lot of folks find themselves moving from dummy to amateur rather quickly. And it takes a while to actually move to that professional phase, because what happens at the professional phase is we're kind of back to that 70-30. The big difference, the big difference here though, on the professional phase is the 70% of listening, asking questions, and uncovering fit or client need is extremely intentional. So one of the things we like to say here at Sandler is the professional does what the dummy does on purpose. And what we mean by that is the professional will thoughtfully ask questions to uncover fit. They'll pretend maybe they don't have an answer. They may say things like, please help me understand. Can you explain that further? They'll get more details and kind of pull it out rather than hear the prospect ask a question and automatically volunteer and jump in with the answer. So the real key to this thing here is to get folks to move from this dummy phase, get them adequate product knowledge so they can talk confidently and be knowledgeable about the industry, the company, or the product through this amateur phase, but then continue progressing them through into the professional phase. Because what happens in the professional phase, ladies and gentlemen, is the professional actually has a couple of huge advantages. So the first one is they can defend against what we like to call unpaid consulting. So think about all of the questions and free advice that the amateur gives as they're volunteering all of their product knowledge. What the dummy can do is they can defend against this. Not saying we don't want to give our prospects or clients the right information, but we don't want to make them have all the right information in a case where they want to use this to leverage a better deal for the competition, or maybe use all of our knowledge about the industry, product, or features, benefits, or maybe even the company as a way to leverage a better deal, or quite frankly, just get some unpaid consulting. The next thing that happens that is a real advantage of migrating through that dummy curve to the professional phase is it allows the professional to gather info. So think, if you will, for a second, you don't usually walk into a doctor's office, say, hey, doc, my elbow hurts, and the doctor throws a prescription of medication at you and begins lecturing you on the features, benefits, specs, and all that's good about the medication. The doctor will ask you a ton of questions to understand, why does your elbow hurt? Do you have any allergies to other medication? What else is going on? They ask a lot of these things because what they're really trying to do is uncover what's actually wrong, so they can work with you to determine the best solution for your pain, even though you're probably just walking in saying, hey, doc, my elbow hurts. There may be a lot of underlying things there. Because what happens is the prospect, a lot of times, they'll tell you what their pain is or what they think they want you to solve. But until you can really dig in and understand the true need or the fit, all you're really doing is playing that game of ping pong, bouncing questions back and forth at each other. And then finally, what happens on the professional phase of the dummy curve is we can make sure, as we said, that we're dealing with the correct issues. So much in the way that we talked about a physician earlier is doctor's not going to go in and just treat an elbow that hurts. A doctor's really going to understand underlying issues, your patterns of behavior, what's going on, what some of your limitations may be for specific levels of treatment, what your time frame may be even for getting that treatment. Same thing happens in sales every day, folks, is we can't just go in and diagnose the surface issue. We have to, as professionals, help work with the prospect to understand, first of all, if there's even a fit, because you can't, quite frankly, you can't sell everyone anything at any given time. And then if there is a fit, what's the right process then for next steps to move forward together as partners to determine the right solution and find something that works for all people. So that's it. A couple of minutes on what we at Sandler like to call the dummy curve. Hopefully it gets your head kind of spinning on a couple of key topics and a different way of doing business, asking questions versus leading with products and solutions and features and benefits. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dan Storm, president and owner of Sandler Training by True North Performance Advisors here in the Lehigh Valley. Look forward to hearing from you soon.